back to my channel. Was that a little bit of a new intro? I've really been trying to mix it up lately. Anyways, hi guys. So today, just like the title says, I'm going to be showing you 3 easy and healthy, also vegetarian, dinner ideas. Now, today's video is actually sponsored by HelloFresh, and to those of you that don't know what HelloFresh is, HelloFresh, how many times can I say HelloFresh, is a meal delivery service that brings to your door all of the ingredients that you need to make delicious, healthful meals for less than $10 a meal. HelloFresh also employs 2 full-time dietitians to help make sure that the meals that you are eating and creating in your kitchen are healthful and delicious and all of the good things. Each week, HelloFresh creates new, delicious recipes that only take about 30 minutes to make, and anyone from beginner cooks to novice is not the word, beginner cooks to professional chefs can make. That's the word I was looking for. I think my favorite thing about HelloFresh is the fact that every time I get my recipes, I feel like I'm taking a cooking class. Like, it's not even just about the ease of the meal. I literally learn how to become a better cook by cooking with HelloFresh. So if you want to try out HelloFresh, how many times have I said that in this intro? Enter this promo code right here and you will receive $30 off of your first week of meal deliveries, and I just highly recommend it. So now let's hop right into the recipes. Boop. That was the hop and that was really lame. All right, so recipe number 1, yellow squash flatbreads. Spoiler alert, they're really good. So this is what all of my ingredients came in this month for HelloFresh, and here are all of the ingredients I used to make this recipe. So I started off by halving my squash, and then after I halved it, I cut it down the center into little half moons, basically, all the way down through the whole squash. And then I cut up my scallions into little bitty pieces like so, opened my lemon in half, and then I chopped up all of my little cherry tomatoes. I halved them all one by one, and I like to have my cherry tomatoes from the top down. Then I put I took all of the basil leaves off of the actual stem, because we're gonna use the stem in a really interesting way in a little bit. But first thing I did was I toasted my pine nuts on a little pan, just dry. I didn't use anything. And once they were toasty, I put them in a little ramekin. And then I added some oil to the pan, and I've never done this before, but I stir-fried basically my green onions. And once it got fragrant, about 30 seconds in, I threw my squash in and let that cook. Then I took my flatbread and I started to assemble it. I put little chunks of mozzarella onto the flatbread, and once my veggies were done sauteing, I scooped that onto the flatbread as well, like so. Look at me go. And then I took my halved cherry tomatoes and I put that on top of the flatbread too. I love baked cherry tomatoes, side note. And then I threw it in the oven. The oven was at about 400 degrees, cooked for maybe 12 minutes-ish. I just kept kind of eyeing it. And then I put my toasted pine nuts on top, the basil on top as well, and then I added onto that, this is kind of interesting, I've never done this before, I took some of my honey and I drizzled that on the top as well, and ooh, we are done. By the way, I said we were going to use the basil stems for something else. That's actually for an upcoming recipe, but guys, look at this. Oh, by the way, I put some chili flakes on top as well. So today I have recruited Dan into some taste testing. I got a little bit of resistance because he just ate lunch. I haven't eaten anything.
I'm pretty full, so
here we go.
It's really good to me and lots of this.
The honey and the pine nuts and the basil, that is really good, huh? Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, so this next recipe was totally new. I can hardly even say it. Patatas bravas and crispy artichokes. Something like that. Hopefully I got that right. Here are all the ingredients you're gonna need. We did not end up using the green olives because I hate olives, so I didn't use the olives. And I rinsed off my artichokes, and then I diced up into little cubes the potatoes. So I basically just cut them down like you see there, and then I flipped them on their side, cut it into little cubes, threw it in a pan, and let those cook while I worked on my cherry tomatoes. Once again, having them, I tend to have from the top down. And then I pulled the parsley off the stems, and then it was time to make the dressing. So this aioli was so good. I had a little bit of a struggle getting the mayonnaise out, but scooped that into a bowl, and then I pulled the potatoes off the pan when it was done, and then I threw the artichokes, I was gonna say crispy artichokes, but they become crispy, in the pan. Then I did about a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. I crushed the garlic clove, added a little bit of chipotle powder to the mix, some salt, look at me salting my dressing, or my aioli, excuse me. Then I did the pepper. I like my aioli extra peppery, and I stirred it up. At that point, I checked on the artichokes, which were almost done. I scooped my arugula onto the plate, added the potatoes, and then I took the almond slices and, I don't know what you call that, drizzled, dropped, something like that on top. Added the crispy artichokes, the cherry tomatoes, drizzled my parsley on, the feta cheese, and then I took my aioli, and now we're gonna use the word drizzled properly. I drizzled the aioli onto the crispy bravadas, whatever you call this. Fancy recipe. All right, here we go.
Hey! Oh my gosh, that is really good.
I know.
Mmm.
The aioli is delicious. The crunch of the almond is great. The feta on here, the parsley.
That was so good.
I'm so glad that that is your reaction.
If that had come to my table at a restaurant,
Would you please
I
just
would be
punch?
very happy.
Yeah! All right, so the last recipe we are going to do is this squash and asparagus quinoa bowl. The flavorings in this, really, really good. So here are all the ingredients I used, sans the olives, because once again, I'm not an olives fan. And there I am making a face and then salting my water for quinoa. Now, this is what I was referring to earlier. I'm actually gonna stick the stems of the basil into the water that I'm cooking my quinoa in. I've never seen anything like this before, and it totally makes sense, and I thought it was so interesting. So I don't even know, janky, and I don't have a lid to my pot, so I put a plate on top. Bowser watched from the side of the kitchen whilst I cooked my food, and I cut my squash in half, and then I cut it in half again and made these little strips that I'm going to be like basically marinating and baking. So I put them all into a bowl, quickly realized that the bowl was too small, transferred it to a bigger bowl, not that you needed that info, and then I put some olive oil, some salt, and then I use this Tuscan heat spice blend that's basil, garlic, rosemary, oregano, cayenne pepper, and fennel. And I drizzled that on top of my veggies, tossed it up by hand, and then put it onto a pan to put in the oven at 425. And I let it just bake for about 10 minutes, kept my eye on it. In the meantime, I made a dressing that consisted of red wine vinaigrette, some Dijon mustard, a little splash of olive oil, about a tablespoon of honey, salt, and some pepper. And then I stirred that up, but at that point my quinoa was done. So I pulled that off the stove and then picked out the little basil leaves or the basil stems. You're not gonna wanna eat that. So around that time, I threw in my asparagus with a little olive oil into the oven to join my squash. And then I dumped my sunflower seeds into the quinoa, put some feta into the quinoa as well, took some chopped up basil. We're calling it drizzled. I don't know. No, now I'm drizzling. I'm drizzling the dressing into the quinoa. And then I tossed all of the ingredients together. Then my veggies were done baking, so I pulled them out of the oven, did a little dance, because everything deserves a little dance, right guys? And then I plated my veggies onto my quinoa. And guys, whoa, I love veggies and I love quinoa, and this is what the dish looked like.
Go first and then quickly hand me the fork.
I kind of already cheated because I had tried the salad mixture before the veggies were out, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that because that's where all the taste is, and it's really good. The sunflower seeds and the basil.
I don't even like quinoa, but I saw the flavors of like this. I just got tasting the sunflowers.
It's good, huh?
I love sunflower seeds. This is really good. Pound.
Yummy. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did like it and you want more food videos. Also, leave me a request down below because I've actually been taking quite a few requests lately. I'm going to try to get better at like screenshotting and showing who the requests are by though, because I think that's really fun. So, yeah, subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye guys.